The day I turned 18, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table. I thought they were going to hand me a card with cash inside and tell me how proud they were. Instead, my mother slid a piece of paper across the table. My father didn't even look at me. He stared at his coffee cup like it held the answers to the universe. My mother said, "We have something important to tell you." And the way she said it, the way her voice cracked just slightly, I knew. I knew before she even said the words. I knew before she explained their reasoning. I knew before she told me to be proud. My brother had been struggling with his business for 2 years. I'd never seen a single receipt. I'd never seen a single client. But in my parents' eyes, he was a visionary, a risk-taker, a son who was going to make them proud. And I was just the daughter, the quiet one, the one who studied too hard, the one who dreamed too big, the one who had a full ride to the university halfway across the country, a full ride that barely covered half the tuition. My parents had been saving my college fund for 16 years. My grandmother started it when I was born. She used to hug me tight and whisper, "This is for your future, sweetheart. Don't let anyone take it from you." She didn't know she was being prophetic. She didn't know that one day, those very words would echo in my mind while I watched my brother drive a brand new truck into our driveway. A truck my parents bought him. A truck he didn't need. A truck that cost more than my entire freshman year. My parents told me to be proud. They told me that my brother's success would be my success. They told me that family helps family. They told me that I was young, and I could always try again later. Later. Like dreams have an expiration date. Like tuition doesn't go up every single year. Like the scholarship I worked my entire life for would still be waiting for me when my brother's business inevitably failed. But I didn't say any of that. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just nodded. I packed my bags. And I walked out the front door with nothing but a suitcase, $32 in my pocket, and a phone that would soon stop ringing. I thought that was the worst part. I was wrong. Because 1 year later, my brother's business was in ruins. My parents were calling me nonstop. And I had more money in my bank account than they had ever seen in their lives. But the phones? I let every single call go unanswered. And when they finally showed up at my front door, begging for forgiveness, I told them something that left them speechless. Something that would destroy every lie they had ever told themselves. Something that would finally make them understand exactly what they had thrown away. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Let me tell you what really happened. Because what happened next, nobody could have predicted. Let me take you back to that kitchen table. It was a Tuesday evening in late July. The kind of summer night where the air feels thick and heavy, and the cicadas are so loud you can barely hear your own thoughts. I remember every single detail about that night. The way the ceiling fan creaked on its rusty hinge. The way my mother's hands trembled slightly as she pushed that piece of paper toward me. The way my father refused to meet my eyes. I was 17 years old. 17. And I had been working toward this moment since I was 12. I had taken every AP class my high school offered. I had volunteered at the local hospital every Saturday for 3 years. I had written and rewritten my college application essays until my fingers cramped. And it had paid off. I got into my dream school. A prestigious university nearly 1,000 miles away. A university that had accepted less than 15% of applicants that year. My acceptance letter was still pinned to the refrigerator. I had put it there the day it arrived. My mother had hugged me and cried. My father had clapped me on the back and said, "That's my girl." My brother, Mark, had barely glanced at it. He was too busy scrolling through his phone. Too busy talking about his new business venture that was going to make him a millionaire by 25. Mark was 4 years older than me. He had always been the golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The one who got away with everything. When he dropped out of community college after 1 semester, my parents said he was finding his own path. When he crashed my father's car, they said it was just an accident. When he spent $3,000 on a business course that turned out to be an online pyramid scheme, they said he was learning valuable lessons. But me? I had to earn everything. Every good grade. Every achievement. Every single ounce of approval. And even then, it was never enough. I was always second place to my brother. Always the backup plan. Always the one who would understand when things didn't go my way. That night at the kitchen table, my mother took a deep breath and said, "Sweetheart, we need to talk about your college fund." I remember feeling confused. My grandmother had set up that fund when I was an infant. She had been a schoolteacher her entire life. She didn't have much money, but she saved what she could. Every birthday, every Christmas, she would deposit a little more. She used to say, "This is for your education. This is your ticket out. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve it." She had passed away when I was 15. Lung cancer. It took her fast. One minute she was baking cookies in her tiny kitchen, and the next she was in a hospital bed, too weak to hold my hand. In her will, she had explicitly stated that the money was to be used for my education. My parents were the trustees. They were supposed to protect it. They were supposed to guard it with their lives. My father cleared his throat. He still wouldn't look at me. He just stared at his coffee cup like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. "Your brother has been going through a tough time," he said slowly. "His business has hit a rough patch. He needs capital to keep things moving forward." I felt my stomach drop. What does that have to do with my college fund? My mother reached across the table and tried to take my hand. I pulled away. I remember the hurt flash across her face, but I didn't care. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. "We made a decision," my mother said. "As a family, we decided that helping your brother now was more important than what?" My voice was shaking. "Than my education? Than my future? Sweetheart, please don't be dramatic." Dramatic. She called me dramatic. I was about to lose my entire college fund, and she called me dramatic. "We gave him the money," my father said flatly. "Every cent. We gave it to your brother to invest in his business. It was the right decision. His business has a better future than a college degree. He's going to make real money, real success. And when he does, he'll help you. He'll pay for your tuition." I couldn't breathe. I literally could not draw air into my lungs. The room started spinning. The ceiling fan creaked overhead. My brother was sitting in the living room, watching television, completely unaware that my entire future had just been handed over to him on a silver platter. "Mom, that money was from Grandma," she specifically said. "I know what she said," my mother interrupted sharply. "But your grandmother was old-fashioned. She didn't understand how the world works now. Your brother has vision. He has ambition. He's going to build something real." I looked at my father. "Dad, please tell me this isn't true. Please tell me you didn't give away my tuition money." My father finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes broke something inside me. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't guilty. He was annoyed. Annoyed that I was making a scene. Annoyed that I wasn't just accepting it like a good little daughter. "Your mother and I made a decision," he said coldly. "It's done. The money is gone. Now we need you to understand. We need you to be proud of your brother. We need you to support him. That's what family does. Family sacrifices for each other. Family sacrifices for each other." I repeated those words in my head over and over again. Family sacrifices. But I was the only one sacrificing. I was the only one losing anything. My brother got everything. He got the money. He got my parents' approval. He got their unwavering belief in his vision. And I got nothing. I got a plate of cold leftovers and a lecture about being a good sister. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You used my entire college fund, money that Grandma left specifically for me, to pay for Mark's failing business. And you want me to be happy about it? You want me to smile and clap and tell him congratulations? We want you to be proud of him," my mother repeated. "I want you to tell me when I'm supposed to go to college," I said. "Tuition is due in 6 weeks. My scholarship only covers half. Without that money, I can't go. I can't even afford to apply for loans." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "You'll figure it out. You always do. You're the resourceful one. That's why we felt comfortable making this decision. We knew you would understand." I stood up from the table so fast my chair scraped against the linoleum floor. My hands were shaking. My entire body was vibrating with rage and disbelief. "I worked my entire life for this," I said. "I did everything right. I got the grades. I got the acceptance. And now you're telling me that Mark, who hasn't accomplished a single thing in his entire life, gets my money because he has vision? My father slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. You will not disrespect your brother like that. He is trying to build something. Something that will benefit this entire family. And when he succeeds, you'll be grateful that we made this decision. When he succeeds. Not if. When. Because in my parents' minds, Mark could never fail. Mark was destined for greatness. Mark was the golden child. And I was just the daughter who needed to be grateful for the scraps I was given. The next morning, I packed my bags. I didn't have much. A few changes of clothes. My laptop. My textbooks. My grandmother's photo. I left everything else behind. I left my room. I left my high school diploma on the kitchen counter. I left a note that said 3 words, "I'm done waiting." And then I walked out the front door. I didn't look back. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked. I walked to the bus station with $32 in my pocket, and a dream that I refused to let die. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how I was going to survive. But I knew one thing for certain. I would never, ever ask my parents for help again. I would build my own future. And when I succeeded, they would be the last people on earth to know about it. The bus ride took 2 days. 2 days of staring out the window, watching the landscape change from familiar suburbs to rolling hills to bustling city streets. I called a friend from high school. She was already in the city, attending a community college. She let me crash on her couch. She gave me a week to figure things out. 1 week. That week changed everything. Because in that week, I discovered something about myself that I never knew existed. A strength. A determination. A refusal to let anyone else control my destiny. I applied for every job I could find. I walked into restaurants, coffee shops, retail stores. I handed out resumes like they were flyers. I called the university and begged for more financial aid. I explained my situation. I didn't tell them about my parents. I didn't tell them about my brother. I just told them I needed help. And they listened. The university offered me a work-study program. It wasn't much, but it was something. I took out student loans. I accepted that I would graduate with debt. I accepted that I would have to work twice as hard as anyone else. But I didn't care. Because it was mine. Every single dollar I earned would be mine. No one could take it away from me. No one could give it to my brother. That was the beginning. That was when I stopped being the quiet daughter who accepted her fate. That was when I started fighting back. And when I finally told my parents the truth, they wished they had never given away my college fund. But that part of the story, that part is still to come. The first 6 months were brutal. I won't lie to you and pretend it was easy. It wasn't. There were nights I fell asleep on my friend's couch with my stomach growling, because I couldn't afford dinner. There were mornings I woke up at 4 in the morning to walk 2 miles to my shift at a diner, wearing shoes that had holes in the soles. There were afternoons I sat in the university library, staring at my textbook, wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. But I kept going. I had no choice. Going back meant admitting defeat. Going back meant proving my parents right. Going back meant accepting that I was second place in my own family. And I refused to accept that. I refused to let them win. I worked 3 jobs during my first semester. 3. I waited tables at the diner from 6 in the morning until noon. I worked at a bookstore from 1 in the afternoon until 6. And I tutored high school students in math and English from 7 until 10 at night. It was exhausting. It was soul-crushing. But it paid the bills. And more importantly, it kept my mind off the betrayal. It kept me from calling my parents. It kept me from crying into my pillow every single night. My parents tried to call me at first. The first week after I left, my phone rang constantly. My mother left tearful voicemails. My father left angry ones. "You're being dramatic," he said in one message. "Come home, and we'll talk about this like adults." Like adults. The same man who had stolen my college fund and expected me to smile about it was telling me to act like an adult. I never answered. I never called back. I let every single voicemail pile up, unlistened to. I let the texts go unanswered. I cut them off completely. It was the only way I could survive. The only way I could focus on building something for myself. But there was one person I couldn't cut off. My grandmother. Not the one who had passed away, but my grandmother's best friend, Helen. Helen had known my grandmother since they were both girls. They had grown up together, gone to school together, raised their children together. Helen was in her 80s now, with silver hair and kind eyes and a voice that reminded me of warm tea on a cold day. I had called Helen the day I left home. I was sitting in the bus station, crying into the payphone, feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. And Helen had listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She just listened. And when I was done, she said something that changed everything. Your grandmother always knew this would happen, Helen said. She told me years ago that your parents would try to take that money. That's why she set up a safety net. That's why she left something behind. Something just for you. My heart stopped. What do you mean? There's a safety deposit box at the bank, Helen said. Your grandmother put it in your name when you were 12. She told me to tell you about it when you turned 18. She said you would know when the time was right. She said you would know when you needed it. I couldn't speak. My grandmother had known. She had known that my parents would betray me. She had known that I would need a way out. And she had prepared for it. She had been protecting me long after she was gone. The safety deposit box contained several things. A birth certificate, a social security card, and a sealed envelope with my name written in my grandmother's handwriting. Inside that envelope was a letter. And inside that letter was the truth. Dear sweetheart, my grandmother had written, if you're reading this, then your parents have probably let you down. I'm so sorry. I wanted to protect you from this, but I knew I wouldn't be here forever. So I prepared something else for you. Something your parents don't know about. Something they can never touch. I set up a separate account in your name. It's not much. It's about a third of what I put in the college fund. But it's yours. Every single cent. No one can take it from you. Not your parents. Not your brother. No one. Use it wisely. Use it to build the future you deserve. And remember, you are stronger than you know. You are braver than you believe. And you are capable of things your parents can't even imagine. I love you. Always. Grandma. I sobbed in the bank lobby. I didn't care who was watching. I didn't care who heard me. My grandmother had been looking out for me. Even from the grave. She had known. She had always known. The account didn't have enough to pay for my entire college education. But it was enough to cover my first semester. It was enough to buy new shoes. It was enough to eat something other than ramen noodles. It was enough to give me hope. And hope, at that moment, was the most valuable thing in the world. I threw myself into my studies. I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life. I joined study groups. I stayed up late reading textbooks. I went to office hours and asked questions. I built relationships with my professors. I networked with other students. I did everything I could to set myself up for success. And it started paying off. By the end of my first year, I had a GPA that put me in the top 5% of my class. I had earned a scholarship. A real scholarship. Not a partial one. A full ride. The university had noticed my work. They had noticed my determination. And they had rewarded me for it. But that's not the only thing that happened. Because while I was working my way up, my brother was falling apart. And I didn't even know it. It started with small things. I heard through the grapevine, old family friends, distant relatives, that my brother's business was struggling. That he had taken out loans he couldn't repay. That he had hired employees he couldn't pay. That my parents had emptied their retirement savings to keep him afloat. But I didn't care. I had cut them off. I had moved on. Their problems weren't my problems anymore. Or so I thought. One afternoon, about 11 months after I left home, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I was studying for finals, and I didn't have time for distractions. But something made me pick up. Something told me I needed to hear what the person on the other end had to say. It was my mother's sister. My Aunt Carol. My mother and Aunt Carol hadn't spoken in years. There was bad blood between them. I never knew the full story. But Carol had apparently tracked down my number. She had called to warn me. Your parents are desperate, Carol said. Mark's business is a disaster. He took out loans against the house. Your parents are going to lose everything. They've been calling everyone they know, trying to borrow money. They've been begging for help. I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. I should have felt something. Sympathy. Anger. Sadness. But all I felt was cold, hard emptiness. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you need to know, Carol said. And because I think they're going to come looking for you. They know you're doing well. They've been asking about you. They've been asking how to find you. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall for a long time. My parents were desperate. They were losing everything. And they were going to come to me for help. The daughter they had betrayed. The daughter they had abandoned. The daughter they had expected to smile and sacrifice and be proud of her brother. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't reach out. I didn't call my parents. I didn't warn them that I knew. I just waited. I waited for the phone call I knew was coming. I waited for the moment they would finally admit they had made a mistake. I waited for the moment they would beg for my help. And when that moment came, I was ready. The call came on a Saturday. I remember the day clearly. It was bright and sunny outside. The kind of day that should have been beautiful. But inside me, there was a storm brewing. I saw my mother's name flash across my phone screen. She had been trying to reach me for weeks. I had ignored every single call. But this time I picked up. Sweetheart? My mother's voice was shaky. It was the first time I had heard her voice in almost a year. Sweetheart, please don't hang up. Please. I need to talk to you. I stayed silent. I let her speak. Your father and I. We made a terrible mistake, she said. We should never have given your brother that money. We should never have taken it from you. It was wrong. It was so wrong. And now we're in so much trouble. Mark's business has failed. The loans are due. We're going to lose the house. We don't know what to do. I still said nothing. Sweetheart, please say something, my mother begged. Please tell me you understand. Please tell me you can forgive us. We need your help. We need you to come home. We need you to help us figure this out. I took a deep breath. And then I said something that left her completely speechless. Mom, I said calmly. Do you remember what you told me the night you gave away my college fund? You told me to be proud of my brother. You told me that his success would be my success. You told me that family sacrifices for each other. Yes, yes, I remember, she said desperately. But we were wrong. We were so wrong. Please just come home. We need you. Your brother needs you. I paused. I let the silence hang in the air for a long, excruciating moment. Mom, I said slowly, I'm not coming home. And I'm not helping you. You made your choice. You chose my brother over me. You chose his vision over my future. And now you have to live with the consequences. I built my life without you. I clawed my way out of the hole you threw me into. And I did it all by myself. I don't need you. I don't need anything from you. And I certainly don't need to sacrifice myself for a family that never sacrificed anything for me. She started crying, sobbing, begging. Please, please, I'm begging you. We have nowhere else to turn. We're going to lose everything. Please have mercy on us. Please have mercy on your brother. He's in so much trouble. My brother. He was in so much trouble. Not me. Never me. I hung up the phone. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't offer a single word of comfort. I just ended the call and set my phone down on the table. And then I started laughing. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Not happy tears. Not sad tears. Just tears. Years of pain. Years of being second place. Years of being told I wasn't enough, all pouring out of me in one uncontrollable wave. But that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. Because my parents didn't give up. They showed up at my door. And when they did, the real truth finally came out. The truth about my grandmother. The truth about the safety deposit box. The truth about the money I had never told them about. And when that truth was finally revealed, it destroyed every lie they had ever told themselves. They showed up 3 days later. I was coming home from my evening class when I saw them sitting on the steps outside my apartment building. My mother, my father, and my brother. All three of them. Waiting for me like I was some kind of long-lost savior. They looked terrible. My mother's hair was unkempt. My father looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. And my brother looked like a ghost. Pale, hollow, broken. I almost walked past them. I almost pretended I didn't see them. But my mother spotted me and jumped to her feet. Sweetheart. Thank God. We've been waiting for hours. I stopped a few feet away from them. I didn't move closer. I didn't invite them inside. I just stood there, my backpack slung over one shoulder, my keys in my hand, and I waited. My father stepped forward. He looked older than I remembered. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red-rimmed. "We need to talk," he said. His voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. "Please. Just give us a few minutes." I looked at my brother. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was staring at the ground like it held all the answers he didn't have. The golden child. The visionary. The one who was going to make millions. And now he couldn't even look at me. I unlocked the door to my building and held it open. 5 minutes, I said. That's all you get. We sat in my tiny apartment. It wasn't much. A studio with a pull-out couch and a kitchenette. But it was mine. Every single inch of it was mine. I had paid for it with my own money. I had furnished it with my own hands. And I watched my parents look around with expressions I couldn't quite read. Surprise maybe. Or embarrassment. "This is nice," my mother said weakly. "You've done well for yourself." I didn't respond. I just sat across from them and waited. My father cleared his throat. He looked at my brother, then back at me. "We need your help," he said. "We've lost everything. The house is being foreclosed. The bank is coming after us. Mark's business is bankrupt. We have nothing left." I nodded slowly. "I know. Aunt Carol called me." My mother's eyes widened. "Carol? You talked to Carol?" "I've been talking to Carol for months," I said calmly. "She's been keeping me updated on everything. The loans. The debts. The foreclosure. I know it all." My father's face turned red. "And you didn't call? You didn't reach out? You just sat there and watched us fall apart?" I leaned forward. "Let me ask you something, Dad. When you gave away my college fund, did you reach out to me? Did you call me and ask me how I was doing? Did you care at all about what happened to me?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "We didn't know you were struggling," my mother said quickly. "We thought you were fine. We thought you had figured things out." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was bitter and hollow and completely devoid of humor. "You thought I was fine? Mom, I had $32 in my pocket when I left. I slept on a friend's couch for 6 months. I worked 3 jobs while going to school full-time. I almost dropped out twice because I couldn't afford to eat. And you thought I was fine?" My mother started crying again. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. If I had known." "If you had known what?" I demanded. "Would you have done anything differently? Would you have given me my money back? Would you have stopped Mark from taking it? Because I don't believe you. I don't believe you would have done anything at all. Because you never did. You always chose him. You always put him first. And I was always the one who had to sacrifice." My brother finally spoke. His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, sis. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought I could make it work. I thought I could turn it around. I was so stupid." I looked at him. The brother who had taken everything from me. The brother who had never worked a day in his life. The brother who had been handed my future on a silver platter and had squandered it. "You were greedy," I said coldly. "You were selfish. And you were never going to succeed. Because success isn't about getting handed things. It's about earning them. And you never earned anything in your entire life." He flinched like I had slapped him. "Good." My father stood up. His face was red with anger. "That's enough. You have no right to speak to your brother like that. He's been through enough." I stood up too. I was taller than him now. Not physically, but in every other way. "I have every right," I said. "I have every right because everything I have, I earned myself. Every dollar. Every grade. Every opportunity. I built this life from nothing while you were pouring everything you had into someone who was never going to make it. And now you come to me, begging for help. And you expect me to just, what? Forgive you? Give you money? Sacrifice everything I've built like I've always done?" My father's face went pale. We're your parents. We're family. You can't just walk away from us. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was old. Yellowed. The handwriting was shaky and faded. But the words were as clear as the day they were written. Grandma knew you would do this, I said quietly. She knew you would take my money. She knew you would give it to Mark. And she knew you would come to me someday, begging for help. That's why she left me something. Something you don't know about. I unfolded the letter and read it aloud. Dear sweetheart, if you're reading this, then your parents have probably let you down. I set up a separate account in your name. Something your parents don't know about. Something they can never touch. Use it wisely. Use it to build the future you deserve. My mother's face went white. My father looked like he had been punched in the stomach. My brother just stared at me with wide, empty eyes. Wait, my mother whispered. Another account? There was another account? There was another account, I confirmed. And I used it. I used it to pay for my first semester. I used it to buy my books. I used it to survive. And then I used what I learned to earn scholarships. To get grants. To build a network. To create a life that doesn't depend on any of you. My father sank back into his chair. He looked old. Broken. Defeated. You had money this whole time? And you didn't tell us? You let us suffer? I didn't let you suffer, I said. I let you face the consequences of your own choices. You chose to give my money to Mark. You chose to believe in him instead of me. You chose to sacrifice my future for his. And now you're paying the price. That's not my fault. That's yours. My mother was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Please. We're going to lose everything. Please. Just help us. Just a little. Please. I looked at them. My parents. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The people who had failed me in every possible way. And I realized something. I didn't hate them. I didn't love them. I felt nothing. They were strangers to me. Ghosts. People I used to know. Here's what I'm going to do, I said slowly. I'm going to give you $5,000. That's it. That's all you'll ever get from me. Use it to get a lawyer. Use it to figure out your debts. Use it to start over. But don't contact me again. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my door. This is goodbye. For good. My father opened his mouth to argue, but I held up my hand. Don't. Don't say another word. You already said everything you needed to say a year ago. When you told me to be proud of my brother. When you told me that family sacrifices for each other. Well, I sacrificed. I gave up everything I had. And now I'm done. I'm done sacrificing for a family that never sacrificed for me. I took out my checkbook and wrote a check for $5,000. I handed it to my mother. She took it with trembling hands. This is more than you ever gave me, I said. And it's the last thing I'll ever give you. Goodbye. They left. My mother was still crying. My father was silent. My brother didn't even look back. I watched them walk down the stairs and out of my building. I watched them get into their beat-up car and drive away. And then I closed my door and leaned against it and took a deep, shaky breath. That was the moment I finally let go. The moment I stopped being the daughter who needed their approval. The moment I accepted that I was better off without them. The moment I realized that my grandmother had been right all along. I was stronger than I knew, braver than I believed, and capable of things my parents could never even imagine. The months that followed were quiet, peaceful. I finished my degree. I graduated with honors. I got a job at a company I had interned with. And then I started my own business. A small consulting firm. It grew slowly at first, and then quickly. By the time I turned 25, I had more money than my parents had ever seen. And I had done it all without them. Without their help. Without their approval. Without their love. I never saw them again. I heard things through the grapevine. They lost the house. They moved into a small apartment. My brother eventually got a job at a warehouse. He never started another business. My parents never talked about me. They pretended I didn't exist. And I was fine with that. I had moved on. I had built a new family. A family of friends. A family of mentors. A family that actually loved me. Sometimes I think about that night. The kitchen table. the ceiling fan, the piece of paper my mother slid across the table, and I think about how different my life could have been if I had stayed, if I had accepted their betrayal, if I had smiled and sacrificed and been proud of my brother. I would have been miserable. I would have been bitter. I would have been trapped in a family that never valued me. But I didn't stay. I left. And I never looked back. I don't hate my parents. I don't hate my brother. I just don't care anymore. And that, I've realized, is the most freeing thing in the world. Not revenge. Not anger. Not even forgiveness. Just indifference. The complete and total absence of caring. They are nothing to me. And I am everything to myself. The phone still rings sometimes. Unknown numbers. Voicemails that I never listen to. But I let every call go unanswered. Because I don't owe them anything. Not my time. Not my money. Not my forgiveness. I owe them nothing. The truth is, I didn't just survive their betrayal. I thrived. I became the person I always had the potential to be. And the only thing I regret is that I didn't leave sooner. That I didn't realize my own worth before they had to tear me down to show it to me. But that's the thing about being the underestimated one. The ignored one. The one who was told to be proud of her brother's success. When you finally realize that you don't need anyone's approval, you become unstoppable. And when they come back, desperate and broken and begging for your help, you get to look them in the eye and say the words they never expected to hear. Goodbye. Goodbye. And don't come back. I have a life now. A good life. A life I built with my own 2 hands. And no one can ever take that away from me. Not my parents. Not my brother. No one. If you were in my situation, what would you do? Would you forgive them? Would you help them? Or would you walk away and never look back? I made my choice. And I've never regretted it for a single second. My grandmother always told me that the people who love you will show it through their actions. Words are cheap. Promises are empty. But actions? Actions are everything. My parents showed me who they were. And I believed them. I believed them the first time. And I never gave them a second chance to hurt me again. That's my story. It's not a happy one. Not in the way most people expect. But it's mine. It's honest. And it's the truth. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.